Hello, friends and folks, and welcome back to Neutral Game, your newbie-friendly fighting game podcast. I'm Six Detmar from Scanline Media.
Hi, and I'm Mildred Kovacevic, aka Real Soviet Bear.
Mia, what are we here to talk about this I was going to say week. I don't know why I said that's not a weekly show.
This month and a half. Is that right?
Yeah, that one. Sure.
We're here to talk about Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. You know, I wanted to prep something like a joke or whatever, but I think it's on point to be as dry about this as I can, considering how dry the game is in presentation.
I mean, you know, there's some jokes. They make jokes. But yeah, Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, the follow-up to Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3, the sixth entry in the Marvel vs. Capcom series because of a complicated history. Yeah, it's it released in 2017. It as opposed to Marvel vs. Capcom 2 and 3, it is a 2v2. And it sort of came out and went, as it were.
It went very quickly and left a vacuum that Dragon Ball FighterZ filled out.
Yeah, that's a big part, I think, of why it failed. I mean, you know, certainly it has its own reasons to have failed, but it coming out more or less alongside. I mean, Marvel, like Dragon Ball was a little bit later, but we were seeing trailers for Dragon Ball as Marvel dropped, and it was like, this looks like it's better. So if the title wasn't obvious, this is a crossover fighting game starring characters from Marvel and Capcom. You know, sort of a roster of all-star sluggers facing off in the arena.
Well, all stars that aren't the property of other movie companies who Disney wants to tank so they can get back the rights to those characters.
I mean, Spider-Man's in here.
I think Spider-Man's like the only olive branch that's been extended in regards to that.
Yeah, there are no X-Men, for instance, as I'm sure is what you're alluding to.
No Fantastic
the
Four.
Fantastic Four have no representation, no. But also on the Capcom side, I don't know. It's a strange roster, I think.
It is.
And it admits a lot of characters that are, you know, I think considered classics to the series. There's no Sentinel, there's no Magneto, there's no, I mean, like
Wolverine.
I guess it is mostly these X-Men characters, right? That I'm mentioning, isn't it?
Well, yeah, because, you know, the entire franchise started with X-Men Children of the Atom, and then went X-Men vs. Street Fighter, then Marvel vs. Street Fighter, then Marvel vs. Capcom. So it's kind of like rooted in the X-Men, and then having an entry in this meta franchise without them just feels really empty.
Yeah, but even also on the Capcom side, I mean, there were some characters that I felt like were really popular in Marvel 3. Characters like, I mean, Wesker or Akuma or Amaterasu, who don't get to, they're not invited back for this one.
Yeah, like Virgil's not in this. That's also weird to me.
Yeah,
I would almost say put in Virgil before you put in Dante and something like this.
I wouldn't go that far, but I understand.
Look,
say that.
Virgil sells games. They literally, every time they release a Devil May Cry, they release a new version of it with Virgil in it. That's how powerful he is.
I mean, he's just an easy addition. Dante is the most popular character in this game.
Yes, he is. I just say Virgil will be more popular. Look, it's the Shadow the Hedgehog thing. Like, literally, like, you have, like, oh, who's cooler, Sonic or Shadow? Who's cooler, Dante or Virgil? And you'll have just, like, nerds fighting about it.
But I mean, the difference, I mean, like, I hear you, and I don't think you're entirely wrong, but the difference is that Dante's whole thing is he has 50 billion weapons. And so that's a big part of what makes Dante so fun, is that he has so many special moves, and he can do fucking anything. Virgil can do one thing. He does it insanely well. He can summon swords and then teleport.
Fear not the man who has learned 1,000 weapons once, but the man who has learned one weapon 1,000 times, or something like that.
Something. Yeah, I guess that's fair. I guess that's fair.
I actually think it's a bigger travesty to have X instead of Rockman or a regular Mega Man. That's my hot take.
I mean, if you're gonna have Zero, they gotta have they're partners.
No,
they're buddies.
like who cares? Like Zero's another like Virgil. Everybody's literally like, who's cooler, X or Zero? Except there, people just say, yeah, it's Zero. Like X is kind of boring.
Also, X can't do the Hadoken, so I don't know why he's here.
He can in Mega Man X. Well, not in this game.
I know, but he can't in this game. Like he is effectively just a dopier looking Mega Man. He doesn't have any X exclusive powers as far as I can tell.
Yeah, like at least if we had like Mega Man, we'd have like some weird rush things you could do.
Could throw lemons at him.
Yeah.
Getting a little bit off track.
Look, it's a crossover fighter. We're allowed to be excited even if this game isn't excited about itself.
So, okay. There was a big sale on Steam for fighting games, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was looking at the sale, and I was like, these are basically all games that I either have or like here or on a console or don't want to play, right? Because I own a lot of fighting games. It's like, I guess I could buy Tekken 7 again.
Yeah.
It's like, no, it's okay. I'm good. And I was like, oh, Marvel vs. Capcom is like $10. That's cheap. I've always been curious. Sure, I'll pick up Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. And that's why we're here today.
Oh, okay. I thought there was like some like bigger reason. I didn't realize you hadn't played it until now.
Yeah, no, I hadn't touched it, and then it was on sale, and I was like, I've always been curious.
Okay.
It was on Game Pass on the Xbox, but I don't have any sticks that hook up to the Xbox, and I didn't want to play on controller.
Mm-hmm.
So, so I hooked my friends Jen and Kyrie of Scanline Media into playing some with me, and I was like, this game's all right, and I popped over and I was like, hey, Mandrog, what if we did a podcast about this one?
Yeah, and like to me, this game is a very similar in terms of reception to Street Fighter X Tekken, because Street Fighter X Tekken has the after effect of people going, oh well, no, now after the patches, now it's actually good, it's actually a fun game. And this kind of has the same vibe where people are like, well, like if you look past, the visuals and the boring stuff, it's actually a good game underneath. Except with Street Fighter X Tekken, I don't agree with people, but with this, I kind of agree with people.
I think Street Fighter X Tekken, I think it had some really cool ideas. It had some cool character design stuff, but at its core, I don't think it's a great fighting game.
I don't like how it handles. But anyway, I like how this game is weird. I think we kind of had like weird sessions when we played this, where the first session, we played twice. Like the first time, I just kind of meandered about, tried every character. And for context, I played this before, but I played for 2 hours like 2 years ago and then stopped, so that shows you how much it kept my attention. But we did one session and I was meandering about, not understanding how to play the game, and then for the second session I spent some time in training mode to learn the moves of one team and then stuck with that and had much more fun. So it's pretty alright, I think.
So the Street Fighter Cross Tekken comparison is interesting on a couple of levels. One, I do think it resembles it in the way of, like, it seems like there is a history here, a near history of Capcom maybe not putting in the work they should, or trying to cut some corners in order to make more money off of crossover games, where maybe they're not getting all the money from the licenses.
Yeah, like I don't know how well Tatsunoko vs. Capcom did, but a lot of people praise that game, and I wonder if it was.
Yeah, it seems great.
I wonder if it was something along the lines of that game might not have earned back the money they expected compared to its budget. So maybe for Street Fighter X Tekken and this, they tried some different stuff.
It's possible. I mean, I think part of it is that, of course, in America, no one knows who Tatsunoko is.
Yeah.
So that makes it hard. Like, I know Japanese companies, but like America is actually a bigger audience. So you do somewhat need to try and appeal to America if you're going to break even on these games. But that's getting a little off track. So this game, in its run up, everyone was like, wow, look at these models. They look like shit. And folks, it's true. A lot of models do look like shit. Some of them look great. Some of them look really good. but like a lot of them look like they are action figures that didn't quite set right in the mold.
Yeah,
Spencer's face is melting.
I think I commented when we were playing that now that we have all these Marvel characters in Fortnite, I think like if you compare those models in Fortnite, these ones, the Fortnite ones would look much better. And Fortnite models don't look that good.
No. I feel like though, for the most part, the Capcom characters suffered more than the Marvel characters, perhaps because they were worried about offending Marvel. Because I mean, like, Captain America doesn't look great, but most of the Marvel characters I think look all right. The really bad ones are like Frank West, who looks terrifying.
I think Dante looks terrible as well.
Dante doesn't look great. Morgan looks like a fish.
I mean, she never looked
her
good.
eyes are so far apart; they're in different time zones. It's rough. It's rough. One of the biggest ones was Chun-Li pre-release, but they ended up redoing her model, and her model only. Everyone else they left.
Yeah, the issue, like, I think with the Capcom characters, I think they, for most part picked the, like, okay versions of the characters, not in terms of, like, how they executed them, but, picking, which rendition of this character do we want to do, right? But with the Marvel characters, the model quality looks better, but I really don't like a lot of the choices of character versions they've done.
Sure.
Like I was playing Gamora, and I don't know what's going on with Gamora. She looks like a generic action figure or something like that. Like it feels like a lot of it is the most boring versions of those characters.
Well, to be fair, Gamora is a character that I am not super familiar with the comics with her, but her popular like depiction in the movies is just generic sexy lady. So I think it's better than that.
Yeah, but it feels like she has like power armor of one body and then like the head of just like spliced onto it. Like I don't know, I don't like it that much. But a lot of the characters just like I think a lot of it is also just the postures don't look that great. I remember when when I messed around in Training Barrel, then I took a look at Nemesis, and like Nemesis is just straight as a board. Like there's like no presence to him when he's like moving or standing. He just looks like he doesn't look strong. He looks tall. And it's kind of like the opposite of say King of Fighters 14, where King of Fighters 14 is not a good looking fighting game. Like I think like most people will agree on that as well. But the character postures and the animations are pretty like good. Like they convey a lot of the characters, and SNK has always been kind of good with that.
Yeah, it is definitely a case where it's interesting because like on the other hand, like I played a fair bit with Thanos. I played a session earlier today where I played a fair bit of Thanos. And Thanos feels great. Like his animations and everything feel really weighty. I feel like it's partially a consequence of just like we saw this with Street Fighter V, where Capcom is doing a lot of outsourcing. Everyone is, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's understandable.
Yeah.
But Capcom's outsourcing different parts to different people, like on a character by character basis, and so the quality is just really inconsistent.
Yeah, I think that's the main thing because like Nemesis had some meaty attacks as well, and there were some attacks from Winter Soldier that felt really weighty. Like that's the thing. Like some things feel really good, but then some things feel really bad, and it's just like a lack of like evening the standard.
So mechanically speaking, 2v2 fighting game, like Cross Tekken. Well, Cross Tekken I think had the thing where if one character dies, the game's over. But like Cross Tekken, this has the tag like mid move. So you can do a longer move to set up for your other character to tag in and continue the combo, or do a mix up if it's blocked. And yeah, it's just a tornado tag. Keep cycling your characters in and out. There are no assists, which is usually a Marvel versus Capcom staple. But the way you can tag in and out, you can do some pretty gross stuff anyway. So
I mean, so I haven't like played too much of Marvel vs. Capcom 3, but I kind of couldn't keep up with it, and I played Dragon Ball FighterZ, and I was okay at it when I was learning it, but I do prefer this in terms of how difficult it is to learn, and I think this was aimed at people like me who couldn't do like assist management. So they just went with like tornado tag. I kind of like, I do like assists in general, but I like, I don't know if you've played, like there's like the odd Japanese game where they have assists, but they're not like actual characters, they're just assists you can pick.
Right.
So I enjoy like that kind of stuff, but when you have like a mix of tagging and assisting, then and then the three characters, it does get a bit overwhelming for me. Whereas this, I feel like, after 2 sessions, I had a kind of okay grasp on like how to manage the characters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely a lot less. Yeah, I mean, like, I feel like that was one of the big successes of Dragon Ball, compared to the Marvel 3, is that it went out of its way to try and make it possible to tell what was happening.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Marvel 3 felt like it embraced the fact that it was just a festival of fireworks and nonsense.
Yeah.
And yeah, Infinite definitely has an emphasis on making it possible to see what's happening. Except for when you bring out the Infinity Stones. So this is a mechanic where when after you pick your 2 characters for your team, you pick one of 6 different Infinity Stones. Let's see, reality, space, time, power, soul, and mind. And they have different powers on the dedicated stone button. But then also, like, you fill up a meter and you hit it to do like an infinity storm, which also has special effects, a big like super mode. I like this idea a lot. I don't think this mechanic is very well designed.
For me, it was a little bit of a hit and miss. Like, it feels like either the attack was like decent, but the storm wasn't, or vice versa. And I think I learned to appreciate it a bit more the more I played, because you were playing with the Soul Stone, and like the Infinity Storm of that one is that it resurrects your other character, and then you control both of them at the same time, or something like that. And at first I was like, oh, this is kind of bullshit, because I kill your character and then he just comes back. But then I realized, oh well, if I use my Infinity Storm, I block you from using yours. Or maybe like I need to manage how much I'm attacking which character. Like maybe it's better for me to leave your character at low health and then force you to switch out, or something like that. So once I learned to kind of have to play around it, it did feel like it had some matchup knowledge to it, which I'm fine with. But also it just, in some cases, it just didn't feel super good. Like, I ended up sticking with only one stone because I didn't really like the other ones.
Yeah, well, I mean, you stuck with the time stone, which feels to me like maybe the one stone that has like uses for both forms, right?
Yeah,
like its stone button is like a fixed range teleport forward, which is useful. And then its storm is like makes comboing easier. Is that basically right?
So it speeds up your attacks in a way where you can connect things faster in a combo that wouldn't otherwise be possible. It does some weird things as well. Like Nemesis has that thing where when you mash when you do a rocket launcher move and you mash the attack button that's part of the special input, he'll reload and shoot it again. But if you enter the time stone thing, he won't reload it and shoot it. Instead, he'll cancel into a kick. So I think it also affects just like what's cancelable and what's not. Like, I didn't really manage to fully understand it, but there was more going on than just fast attacks.
Interesting. Yeah, I mostly ended up using a Soul Stone because for my playstyle, I found most of the stones useless as far as their stone button. Soul Stone is like a long-reaching normal that does a tiny bit of damage and heals a tiny bit of health. It's pretty slow. It's not really useful. But then the Storm version, as you mentioned, resurrects a character and allows you both to fight at the same time. And I got a lot of bullshit with that. Yeah, let's see. Power Stone makes your attacks like hit harder and do like special knockback during storm, but the button version is just like you just throw your hand out and wall splat them. I'm sure it has some combo use, but it doesn't seem great. There's
The box.
I think it's Space Stone.
Yeah.
Is cool because the storm is like it puts like a box around them, it cages them in. So it's really good for like zoning. But then the stone version pulls them towards you, so if you're a zoner, that's bad for you. So it's two abilities seem at opposite purposes. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff like that where it just seems like a weird choice.
Well, it's also like the other one seems very matchup dependent, because if you box in a character that's a zoner, like, he's not gonna care.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I definitely didn't care in a lot of cases.
Right, for sure. That's fair to say. And I think it'd be interesting if you could do it so like they couldn't jump or something in a game like this where they're, chicken blocking is a good strategy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I've referenced chicken blocking on the show before. That's when you jump and block in the air because that way you don't have to block high-low. Very good in games like this that are chaotic, and if you take that away from someone, that could be very strong.
Yeah, I can only offhand remember like one game where there's a move that blocks the opponent from jumping, and that's like an old super from Baiken and Guilty Gear XX. I don't know if she has it in XR, but it's basically like if she lands it, the character is blocked from jumping for a set amount of time.
And I think it's not the same thing, but I think in Marvel 3, Magneto has a move that just pulls you instantly to the ground.
Mm-hmm.
So he can just he can't stop you from jumping, but if you jump, he can just say no and push you right back down immediately.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know. It seems like a system that just needed more in the oven because a lot of, as we mentioned, a lot of stones, one form or the other is useful, and not both. Shout out to Reality Stone, which was the source of a video that, I mean, if the game wasn't already doomed, probably helped doom the game. The famous Spider-Man Infinite, the easiest Infinite I've ever seen in my life. You saw that one, right?
I think I saw the release. Like it was something like he looped the web and the Reality Stone.
Yep, Web Ball Reality Stone, Infinite Loop. It got patched out by the time we played it, but yeah, that was a true Infinite of just two moves, just done back to back, not particularly hard to time. And I think that was a part of like even the narrative once this game actually came out was a lot of people saying like, well, actually, there's a lot of really cool stuff in this game, right?
Yeah.
But again, because of like one would imagine budget or time constraints, we can't know for sure. We haven't seen behind the scenes, but there are signs. A lot of these systems just feel incomplete or half-baked or buggy. And so you got to see some really jank stuff. Was it against when I was playing against Kyrie, I did Soulstorm, right? So I had both my characters out at once, and one of them was Dante. And Dante has a move where he rushes forward and does like this elaborate series of slashes. It's Dance Macabre, and it forces like cinematic camera while he's doing it. But there were two characters, and so the camera was having a panic attack because it would zoom in for cinematic angle and then immediately go, wait, there's another character, and zoom out. And it was just like pulsing like every couple of frames in and out, in and out, in and out.
That was against me. And it made it impossible. It was against me. It made it impossible to defend myself.
Okay. Well, that was a true combo anyway. So once it had hit, you were done anyway. But that's the kind of thing that if you'd had longer to work on this game, you just clearly would have fixed, right?
Yeah. It definitely did not have enough time in the oven. That's its biggest issue. And it didn't have enough of a budget to look good. Like I think I generally do not care about like graphics in games, but like fighting games are a weird situation where if it doesn't look good to watch, it might not necessarily look good to play. Like that probably isn't the best way to phrase it. Like it doesn't have too many things going for it. Like, you don't have, an expansive world, like a lot of, wide systems where you have to, like, do a lot of environmental stuff, like, in the regular, like, I don't know, FPS or just, like, adventure game or something like that. So, like, if a fighting game doesn't really look up to standard, or doesn't have a distinct visual style, it ends up being off-putting. It's kind of like how you don't really release a racing game unless it has some distinct visual part of it that's enticing, like either it looks realistic, or it looks very high fidelity, or it has a very unique look. Just one of those genres.
And, like, I feel, for me, like, mostly it was just, like, in, like, loading screens or character select where I was like, man, these models look goofy. In the actual game, I don't feel like I noticed that much. But what I did notice a lot was that the voice acting was really bad for a lot of characters.
Yeah.
And the writing too, right? Like, as a person who played a lot of Winter Soldier, I got to hear a lot of him saying, keep the change, which is just like, I don't know who thought that was a cool line. It's not. Sound like just a dweeb.
It just feels like the game isn't excited to be there. Like, one game I was thinking about, I haven't played it that much, but I played it a bit, was Power Rangers Battle for the Grid. And, like, that game's alright. I had some fun with it. But at least, like, that game's very excited to be a Power Rangers crossover game. Like, it's super hyped for everything. The music's hyped, the characters are hyped, everybody's very happy just to be there. Whereas here is just like this, we're kind of serious, but we're not, but we are, but we care, but we don't actually care. Like it's like the game itself is not really excited to just be there.
Yeah. That said, I do really appreciate the setup of the game, which is that, who is it? It's, Death from the Marvel Universe talks to Jeddah from Darkstalkers, and they agree that in order to make life and death balance, they need to fuse Marvel and Capcom together. And so, like, New York City fuses with Metro City to make New Metro City, and AIM, MODOK's group, and, obviously the Resident Evil umbrella form AIMbrella. It's all just very stupid, and I enjoy it.
Okay, I didn't actually ever touch the story mode because, like, I never enjoyed the Capcom story mode, so I didn't bother. So I'd have to rely on you in terms of what's the quality like there.
I mean, I don't think it's necessarily great. I think the premise and the scenarios they create are fun and ridiculous. But like the rest of the game, it shows a lot of signs of being, like, rushed and just half baked, I think.
Yeah, because I don't know how much you watch, like, comic book or read comic book crossovers, or watch any of those animated crossover shows. Like, I don't know, like Judge Dredd versus Batman, or TMNT versus Batman and shit like that. Like, that's...
Or Mickey Mouse versus Batman.
Yeah. Like, that's not... Like, I know, like, obviously there probably are some that are like, the dimensions are fusing into one. But in a lot of cases, they just don't care. Like, in the TMNT versus Batman thing, it's just, they're the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are in New York City, and Batman is in Gotham, and it's like, oh, how do they not know about each other? It's like, they heard rumors, but they didn't really care. Like, who cares? It's never like this grand justification of why things are working. So that's kind of like what my expectation of this would have been. It's just like, yep, there's Umbrella and there's AIM, and they exist in the same world, okay, whatever. I appreciate that they tried. It's just like, it's not really an expectation of mine.
Yeah, that's fair, I think. And then, okay, so talking about the roster, this is honestly, actually, I forgot to mention, the post-credit stinger in the story mode is that Thanos has learned the Satsui no Hado and is going to kill the gods.
Okay, that is funny.
So I think that's sick. But the roster selection we were talking about a little bit is pretty strange compared to the previous games. There's a lack of anyone from Fantastic Four or X-Men for obviously reasons of licensing and trying to save money by not cutting in other companies, right?
Well, that was so that was before the Fox acquisition from Disney.
Right.
So
Right.
like now it would not have been a problem, but back then that still all belonged to Fox, so they didn't want to touch it.
So you're saying there's a clear road to Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite.
Honestly, I said this before. If they ever make like a new Marvel vs. Capcom, just call it the Capcom All Stars. Like nobody gives a shit, and just pick some ancient characters and give them the movesets from the X-Men.
Not a bad solution, though. I do think some of the new characters they added in this one are pretty fun. I mean, you played a lot of Gamora, and art design complaints aside, it seemed like you enjoyed how she played.
Yeah, she's really fun to play. I had a lot of fun with her because she has. Now we'll go into that later, but yeah, let's go over the Marvel roster. Aside from X-Men and Fantastic Four, they do have the standard big names, which is Captain America, Iron Man, and Spider-Man. I feel like those are the three really big ones that you'd expect. At least from like a, I guess it depends. Like if you look at this from a Marvel Cinematic Universe perspective, then I think everybody is kind of represented who's relevant. But if you look at this from a Marvel vs. Capcom perspective, like yeah, there's like a massive gap.
And it is kind of interesting. Like this did come out in 2017, and these games have historically been used to be like, hey, these are characters that like Capcom or Marvel intend to do more with soon, right? And that feels, I mean, if it does in that way, it's like, oh yeah, no, in the time since then, like, characters like Thanos have become a pretty fucking, when this came out, Thanos was like, had a few like cameos in Avengers movies, but he was not an important character in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and now he's a pretty big deal. And Thanos is really well represented in this game.
Yeah, he was. I mean, that was basically because they probably like wanted Thanos because they were setting him up as being the big bad, and that was the entire decade-long cinematic universe setup.
Sure. And then there are characters that they included clearly just out of respect for the tradition. Clearly Capcom negotiated for them, and they were like, I guess that's fine. Characters like Dormammu or Nova, who are characters that, yeah, were big in Marvel vs. Capcom 3, but not in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Nobody cares, right?
I mean, Dormammu appears as the villain in the first Strange movie, but yes, nobody actually
really?
cares. Yeah, he's like the big bad that's trying to break into the universe, and then I guess, like, spoiler alert, like, Strange fights him directly for like 3 minutes, and it's more like, ha, gotcha, Dormammu, you thought you would win, well, you didn't.
Is he still a flaming skull man?
He's a giant, oversized, flaming skull person. So he's kind of like I don't know. He's like supersized. He's not humanoid.
As a person who only knows him from Marvel vs. Capcom, I always thought he was pretty chill.
I don't know. He seemed more like a force of nature in that one than like an actual person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Minor touch with Dormammu. They made a change to he still has the power of destruction and creation thing, but previously that was like you did specific inputs for that, and now it's you hit buttons after doing special moves or hold buttons. And I think it feels a lot more natural to weave it into your flow, when he feels really good now. That's cool.
I think I'd say also Ghost Rider was probably there as like them appealing to a Marvel vs. Capcom 3 character.
Or Nicolas Cage. Maybe he asked.
No, I actually don't even know like where Ghost Rider was at that point. I think that was also a Fox thing, or maybe it reverted back to Marvel. I don't know. I actually probably reverted back to them. But they also had like a bunch of the cinematic characters that I don't think were in the previous ones. Like I don't think Black Widow was in any of the previous Marvel games.
Yeah, Black Widow, Black Panther, Captain Marvel, Gamora, Ultron, Winter Soldier are all new.
Right, Captain Marvel's also here. I completely forgot about her.
Yeah, she's one of the mascot characters for this game.
Yeah.
And then on the Capcom side, a lot of old faces. I feel like the new additions that are interesting, Sigma as DLC, and also Monster Hunter.
Yeah, Monster Hunter was a weird, but like I guess like made sense especially like in hindsight with how big the push for Monster Hunter World was.
Well, Monster Hunter has always been huge in Japan anyway. It's been Capcom's biggest franchise, so it makes sense to represent them in some way, you know?
Yeah. So just put in one of the big monsters instead. Just like bring back the age of oversized characters that don't make any sense.
I mean, you know, they put a Rathalos in a lot of other things, so why not?
Yeah.
Rathalos in Final Fantasy XIV, Rathalos in Smash Bros. You know, why not?
What was that game called? Like, was it? No, it wasn't Fighters Mega Mix. There was some like Capcom shoestring
Capcom
budget.
Fighting Evolution.
Yeah, that one where they put the dinosaur from Red Earth.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, bring back that dumb stuff.
And of course, we mentioned Jeddah. You got to have a Darkstalkers rep.
Felicia isn't in this one, is she?
No one else from Darkstalkers is.
Well,
oh, wait, no, sorry, Morgan.
Well,
it's
fine.
hardly even think of Morgan as being our Darkstalkers at this point, but
nobody does. Nobody does. I think like even people don't even know Felicia's from Darkstalkers.
Hey, hot take. Felicia's a bad design.
I mean,
she's just a naked lady with ears.
I mean, she's a cat girl.
You can do better as cat girls. I've seen much better cat girls.
I mean, sure. Let's ask Capcom to put in the Nekopara cast in the next Capcom crossover.
Let's do it.
I mean, I'm half joking because usually when you
have to censor all the supers.
I mean, there's a bunch of these fighting games that are based on porn franchises that just like end up playing really actually well.
That's true.
So by that logic, if they put in Nekopara characters, they'd actually be very well rounded.
Not gonna make any jokes about the term well rounded. So you settled on Nemesis, Gamora, and Timestone?
Yep. It looks like the characters I played when I first tried this were Dante and Gamora. But then when I messed around here, I couldn't really get a handle of Dante, so I just went with Gamora and Nemesis in the end, because I do like Gamora. I like a lot of her... I like how fast she attacks, and I feel that's like very beneficial in this game, but I also like how easy it is to cancel a lot of her moves into other stuff. Like, she has the gun moves where she jumps forward and shoots. And there's like a lot of stuff you can do. Like, she has a command normal where she shoots you downwards and then jumps backwards, but then you can cancel the jump backwards into a special that jumps forward, so you can kind of do like a double shot. She has cool stuff like that, and also she has the shenanigans of you do her install move, which gives her like a shadow clone that repeats her moves, and then you do the Time Stone Infinity Storm, which like makes comboing easier, and then you just create like an infinite blade works on the opponent, and their health just vanishes.
It's rough. I didn't like it.
It's pretty funny because all you need is really to do is just auto combo. And then like Nemesis was basically the heavy hitter. I like slow, heavy-hitting characters that have silly projectiles, so I appreciated having, a grappler who is also a bruiser, who is also sometimes a zoner.
A projectile that OTGs and combos into itself, and then like normals that have 7 hits of armor. Nemesis is gross in this game.
It was so funny to play him. And he also has a 3-meter... command grab that's just like, if you're within range, like you just instantly grab. There's no like...
The range is better than you'd think.
Yeah, it's much far. Yeah, it's much farther than I expected it to be.
So our second session, I basically stopped winning because you pulled out Nemesis, and that was kind of the end of my time. I ended up, at first I was playing Ultron and Winter Soldier, and then I switched to Dante and Winter Soldier because I think Ultron's neat, but I just couldn't quite get a handle on him. Dante is, as I mentioned before, he just has a billion moves, so he has a tool for every situation, and I think that's fun. And he has some pretty ridiculous combo stuff. I think Winter Soldier is just like a fairly like aggressive zoner. It wasn't until after our sets that I learned some of his really dirty shit.
Hmm.
He has a move where he just holds up his arm and it's a shield, right? And he can do different moves out of it while holding up the shield. And the shield blocks almost everything and only ends if you cross him up.
Oh, okay.
Which is very annoying. It's a very good way to deal with zoners. But I ended up mostly using Soulstone as mentioned just because I was like, well, I might as well resurrect my character and do, 2-on-1 shenanigans. Because the stone button was pretty useless to me. I didn't want to time stone teleport into people when I was using zoners.
Yeah, it like the Soulstone feels like a safe bet. Like if you don't know what to do, you might as well do Soulstone.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if you manage to like guess the blocking right, you can kind of time it out, and it also carries some like inherent risk factor where, if you do something unsafe and you don't sync up your characters properly, the other person can just like hit both of your characters at the same time, and then that's like very bad. So at first I was kind of complaining about it. I was kind of like, yeah, this is bullshit. Like, what was I doing killing your character who's just gonna come back? But then I realized, oh, actually, you can mess up using the Soulstone very easily if you're just not like paying too much attention to it.
And also, as mentioned, if you are doing your own Infinity Storm, the other player can't. So if you get the sort of the setup where you Infinity Storm right before the kill, or like right after killing, so that you can force a tag in with no ability to res, that can be useful.
Yeah, because like if you kill the other person and then there's like a good like second or two before like the person jumps in, so you can do Infinity Storm then and block them from Infinity Storming as soon as they drop in.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of, just to mention, I do miss the Blaze Blue tag thing they added, where you can kind of delay the jump in as well. I feel like I don't know. At least I didn't figure out how much control.
You got some Nemesis grabs that I really didn't.
Yeah, like it feels like if you're jumping in and the opponent is like waiting for you, you're gonna have a bad time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, Marvel 3 was the game that pioneered the idea of the like you have 3 characters but one hit can kill you, right? Like teams like Firebrand who could do a guaranteed unblockable setup into death on incoming.
Yeah.
There's some messed up shit with that kind of thing, so it does seem essential.
I kind of feel like I don't know how much. I didn't feel like I had much control here. I could be wrong. I haven't spent enough time with the game, but I would have appreciated if there was some clear manipulation where you can like jump in with an attack or jump in with a block or like delay your jump in or like something to make the opponent guess and whiff rather than waiting for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, or pick a side. Honestly, that seems maybe that's too good, but
I think side would have been too good. But if there wasn't anything else, but you could pick a side, then yeah, sure. But I feel like there should have been something rather than just being like, well, I know how long it takes for them to jump in. I know from which side, and I know roughly where, so I'm just gonna set up my command grab so they just jump into my hugging embrace.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I mean, we did some net play. As listeners of the show will know, I am in Southern California. Meadrog is in Sweden. It was pretty good, pretty decent netcode. It seemed like it wasn't top of the line, but we didn't have too many issues.
Yeah, first session was a bit chunky at times. Second session didn't really have any problems, so it seemed really fine to me. Like it's Arc System works fine. It's like, yeah, we played Arc System Works games, without too many issues.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Netcode seems solid. I have noticed. I played some, as I mentioned, with Jen and Kyrie, and Kyrie has a weaker computer that is like pretty much barely able to run the game.
Mm-hmm.
And what that meant for net play is that the load times took forever, and sometimes it would just say no and crash back to the lobby.
We did have that one rage quit disconnect you gave me. That wasn't a rage quit. But
we were both flabbergasted.
Yeah, I was so confused. I think you actually did do the Soul Stone, and I ended up grabbing both of your characters and started doing a like combo that would probably kill you. And then the match just dropped us back into the lobby, and I was so confused because I was like, I know Six wouldn't rage quit like this, but also the timing is too good.
It was so perfect. It's like, no, I have literally never rage quit in my life,
No,
but
you're a good
like
sport.
it looked so perfect.
If it was anybody else, I would not believe them. But yeah, I know you don't do those things.
Yeah, it was of a few weird quirks aside, it worked pretty well.
Yeah. So I guess we should wrap up and just give our closing comments on this. So this is something you're gonna play more of or go back to.
You know, it's funny because yesterday I would have easily just said yes, right? I would have just said, yeah, absolutely, I'm gonna play more of this game. And it's not that my feelings have changed from playing it. Like, it's not like I like it less from my session earlier today, but I started watching the Marvel Lives online tournament that ran recently. It was an Ultimate Marvel vs. 3 invitational tournament that was streamed. And it really got me itching to play Marvel 3. And so now my concern is that I'll just go back to Marvel 3.
I like how this game does certain things. I'm not sure if I'd be fine if somebody said like, "Hey, do you want to play this?" Like, I don't know, this weekend. I'd be fine with it. But
Sure, yeah.
I don't really. It doesn't really have like the staying power for me because I like a fighting game that I can get hyped for in some way or get excited about, and it's very hard for me to get excited about this one.
And it's funny because I feel like, especially with the Infinity Storms, the game tries so hard to make things hype, right? Like, when you hit an Infinity Storm, the whole screen turns like a swirling, like, neon with, basically, like, fucking Aurora Borealis shit going on. And, like, heroic music. And yet it's just not very hype.
It's missing a lot of the very small details that make a game, like, exciting. Like, it's missing... it's kind of like some of the impacts are missing. Like the soundtrack isn't really there. The voice lines, like we said, don't make us excited. Like there's a lot of things. Like when your character's low on health, and the other character tells him like don't like get back in here, don't like overexpose yourself. But even that doesn't really sound super exciting. There's like no unified hype direction. Everything was just kind of like made with the idea of like, yes, we should have this, but it wasn't really synced up properly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Whereas like you play something like I'm not gonna take like an Arc System Works game because like those are pretty fine tuned, but let's take Street Fighter 4 for example. Like that had like a unified aesthetic going for it, like the entire like visual aesthetic, the music, the hype, the attitude between characters when they enter the arena. Tekken as well. Like Tekken is not like a super good looking fighting game, to be honest. Like it doesn't look that great. But you still have the characters that feel excited. You have even when it's terrible music, you see the music is trying really hard to be explosive. You have like the music switch the last round. So like this is just missing a lot of those things, and for me that's also important to a fighting game, because if I'm gonna spend 50 hours with a game, like yeah, the system's gonna be really good, but I also pick like stuff aesthetically. Like I like to pick characters I enjoy watching. I like playing games I enjoy like listening to.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But I would say if Capcom ever does a fighting game again and they decide for some reason they still don't want to do Darkstalkers or Project Justice, please make Capcom All Stars instead of Power Stone, for example.
I mean, that leak said they were working on Street Fighter 6, so...
Yeah, that I know. I mean, they're always going to be working on Street Fighter. That's a given.
They should really just make Alpha 4 instead, but...
I mean, maybe Street Fighter 6 is Alpha 4, I don't know.
True.
But, unfortunate game with some really good ideas and some really decent mechanics. And, it's fun, but a lot of stuff was stacked against it. I think probably the most responsible for this game not doing well is probably Capcom.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I guess that's it for us here. Miodrog, where can people find you on the internet?
You can check me out on twitter.com/mdkii, that's MDK Roman numerals 2, or you can find me on twitch.tv/realsweetbear. And where can folks find you, Six?
You can find me on Twitter at SixDetmar, SIXDETTMAR, and you can find my work at scanlinemedia.com or patreon.com/scanlinemedia. I think we do a lot of good stuff over there, so I would recommend checking it out.
I recommend it too.
Thank you. And friends and folks, until next time, good game.
Bye-bye.
Peace out.